is. I love it. Hello and welcome to Twaddling Along. I'm your host, Dan McBride, joined by my brothers and co-host, Jake.
Hi.
And Josh.
Hey, what's up, man?
Twaddling Along is a podcast based wholly on the idea that staying on topic is wildly overrated. It spurs from many conversations that we found highly and narcissistically entertaining when we were together. Twaddling along, see, I've already messed up. Twaddling itself is a wonderful archaic word meaning to talk in a trivial and foolish way. When one twaddles, they lose themselves in good conversation and company. The discussion points become less important. The topic meanders like a stream. We twaddle quite naturally. I think we can all agree that we're twaddlers.
Big time.
And intend to continue twaddling with all of you listening. In an effort to try to be semi-organized, and I use that term semi very loosely, we are limiting the chosen topics each week to three main themes, at least for right now. The first theme being history, the second being the paranormal, and the human experience. Each week, one of us three will pick a topic within a theme, give a short introduction, and away we will go. We will attempt to stay on topic for as long as possible, which may only be about 30 seconds. The way that our attention spans are. Because of the nature of this podcast, a few disclaimers need to be given. The views expressed on this podcast are strictly for entertainment purposes and do not have or reflect on any organizations which we may now or in the future find ourselves associated with. We also are not subject matter experts. Our opinions are just that, opinions. Does that sound good to you guys?
I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, opinions.
All right, let's get started.
Let's do it.
So, today we are starting with the theme of history. I've got a little introduction on what we're actually going to be talking about. On an ancient obelisk near the sacred city of Nesut Towi, also known as Karnak, there's an inscription attributed to Queen Heshpesut, which says, "Now my heart turns to and fro in thinking what people will say. They who shall see my monuments in after years and shall speak of what I have done." Nearly 3,500 years have passed since the erecting of that edifice, and the Queen's words seem nearly prophetic. These people went by a bunch of different names. A couple of them that I'm going to just absolutely massacre are Remchut Ni Kemet, meaning the people of the Black Land, Tashamu Mahu Kemet, meaning the people of the land of the reeds and papyrus, and then this is the really fun one because it has literally no vowels. Hatkapta, which means the house of Ka of Ptah.
Bless you.
Thank
I heard
you.
a lot of vowels in that one, Danny.
Thank you. Hey, listen. It's from this last name and the time that's kind of eroded in between that we know them as today. That's actually where we get the word Egyptian from, is Hatkapta. It doesn't sound like it to me, but I guess supposedly the Greeks, when they tried to Greekify it, that's what it kind of ended up as.
I thought it was going to be a Shakespeare reference or something. The
ancient Egyptians, with their monolithic constructions, fascinating hieroglyphic language, and longevity, and when I mean longevity, it kind of shocked me. You don't think of things actually lasting quite as long as the ancient Egyptians did, but we're talking 34 dynasties and well over 3,000 years, which kind of a fun just side note. Did you guys know that Roman emperors were recognized as pharaohs?
Were they really?
They really were.
Who was the first one?
The first pharaoh? Or which one? What
first Roman emperor ever.
I don't actually remember if I read it or not, but it is... they say they went like pretty much all the way until about 400 AD, and they were still called pharaohs. And so technically, like, the term pharaoh and the ancient Egyptians, as we think about it, went all the way until then. They have a mystical staying power in the hearts and minds of civilizations in all historical ages. They feature a prominent part in a number of major religions, myths, and cultural memory. They accomplish feats whose machinations to this day are still disputed. But one individual, the pharaoh that historically was of very little import, has captured and held the attention of modern-day masses more than any other. He, along with his father, would be nearly wiped from the historical record, and the chance discovery by an abrasive, hot-tempered Egyptologist on the 22nd of November, 1922, threw him kind of into the limelight. He's the great-great-great-grand stepson of Queen Hatshepsut. Tutankhamun, colloquially known as King Tut. King
Nice.
Tut.
I'm excited. I'm a
am
huge history
too.
fan, so this one's going to be fun.
You know, and when I first kind of dreamed this up, because I was the one who got to pick the topic this week, I really didn't know a lot. Like King Tut, like I thought I knew a lot because I'm kind of an Egypt file. You know, I really like the Egyptian and the archaeology and everything. But like getting into this, it's pretty wild how much like I didn't know, and how like there was a lot of like mystery and suspense and kind of some spooky stuff that's kind of associated with King Tut. So opening up the floor, boys, what do you guys know of King Tut?
Well, I know a lot about King Tut from Batman back in like the 60s or 70s with Adam West, but I just know he got powed, wowed, and whatever.
Wham, bam,
Yeah.
thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly.
I watched a children's documentary by the Natural Geographic, so I think I'm pretty professional right now.
Okay, so a couple just brief kind of points about Tutankhamun. He was actually not born Tutankhamun. He was born Tutankhaten. That has to do kind of, and we'll talk about it a little later, I'm sure, but his supposed dad kind of decided that he was just going to abandon the entire religion of ancient Egypt and set himself up with his own religion. And so he named his son pretty much after himself, and that's Akhenaten. So his first name was Tutankhaten, and he was born 1341 BC. Someone check me on that, but I think that's correct.
Yeah, around then.
Around 1341 BC,
plus or
ancient
2 years.
Egypt. And he was already in the 18th dynasty.
18th dynasty. The pyramids were already ancient by the time King Tut came around.
See, and I actually, so it's funny that you say that. I was looking into that because I thought that was crazy. So the difference between the pyramids and King Tut is roughly about 1,000 years. Like really, like 1,000 years. And so I was trying to find like buildings that were built 1,000 years ago that are still around. And the only one that I could find that people would recognize, and even I could recognize, was Notre Dame was built about 1,000 years ago. And the way that we kind of think of Notre Dame as just being like an ancient old cathedral, like smack dab in the middle of Paris, is probably how they saw the pyramids, which is wild.
Well, isn't it crazy? Like the pyramids, that means they would be like 4,000 years old or something like that. Is
Yeah,
that right?
I think
Even
yeah.
or 5,000.
Yeah, 5,000.
Pretty darn close to 5,000 years old. They were actually built pretty early on. The kind of, when I say early on, you know, a couple hundred years into the actual dynastic, you know, ancient Egypt timeline. So, which is wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I just wanted to point out just before we get into the nitty gritty, not itty gritty. That's funny. Things is a lot of things about King Tut that I realized is there's scientific data, but it's all still questioned. So his dad, his mom, everything about him is kind of like, oh, it could be, but we're not sure, you know. So,
well, with the DNA, I mean, the fact that they had so much inbreeding, they were just related to everyone. So doing the DNA test, it's like they can't really determine that just because he was related to his aunts and uncles and cousins in a lot closer way than I think some of us would probably want to be in our lives.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Like to a point where I was reading some not too nice things, pretty upsetting things, that it wasn't uncommon for like pharaohs to take their daughters as wives, and like they kept them so tightly controlled that you'd think that their health would be pretty terrible. We're talking like the hill of hillbilly. I mean, the most that you can get.
And they had an overbite. There was a genetic thing in King Tut's line that they had a massive overbite, and so their teeth were probably showing all the time.
King Tut must have been a very interesting looking boy and man.
They did like a historical like rebuild of his skeleton, where it kind of shows like you look at him, other than the fact that he is like Anglo-Saxon white.
I don't know if that's accurate,
but like he had a club foot supposedly, Once again, this is all supposedly. This is just a whole bunch of supposedly. He had a club foot. He had a terrible overbite. He had what almost looked like a genetic disposition to be cross-eyed. I mean, the poor kid.
He really was hillbilly.
I say,
No offense to you hillbillies out there. We love you.
It's crazy.
So let's talk about his parents. I mean, his parents are pretty unique as well. Akhenaten and what they believe, what she's classified as just being called the younger lady.
The younger lady.
Yeah. Their parents are very interesting because they were siblings. They were full-blooded siblings of, I can't remember if it was Thutmose or...
Yeah, it was one of them.
But it's pretty interesting because his dad went by a name, Amenhotep IV. So it was Amenhotep III, who was the grandpa.
Right.
And then he changed his name after a few years of rule because he kind of was a religious nut.
Like, really? Like, straight up was just like, hey, you know where we draw that, the sun right above the head of Ra? I'm just going to worship that part.
Just the disc.
Just the disc. Oh, and by the way, I'm the living embodiment of the disc. And so, I'm the boss now.
Yeah, seriously.
No, what's crazy is I was actually thinking about when I was little, and I remember reading like a children's book that actually talked about King Tut being Nefertiti's son. And it was like established, full blown that was the way it was. Because I mean, now we consider her the stepmom, but back in the day, that's actually what they thought, that she was the mom. She co-ruled with Akhenaten. They built their own city. I mean, just some wild stuff.
Yeah, Nefertiti is a very interesting one because she probably, there was two Egyptian pharaohs in between Akhenaten and King Tut, Smenkhare and let's see,
Devai or whatever.
It was Nefertiti, and some people think that was Nefertiti.
Yeah, I read that.
That she was actually a pharaoh after Akhenaten, and that Smenkhare could have been Nefertiti too. That she played male and then switched to female back again and was a female and then mysteriously disappeared after only about a year reign. So Nefertiti is huge, but at the same time, it's like she was only ruling for 3 years, probably, between Akhenaten and King Tut, which I thought was very interesting.
It really, I mean, it's just one of those things where it fascinates me that, one, we can even have these stories that are coming up. Because not only was it really a long time ago, like 1550 or 1550 BC or something, like some ridiculous long time ago, but like that we can kind of paint the picture, especially considering their family literally was kind of wiped off the historical map by someone who, for all intents and purposes, seemed like a family friend.
Yeah, he was.
Like, I don't know if you read this, Jake, but like the pharaoh that came after him. So he had like some grand uncle who became the pharaoh for a little while. And then the pharaoh that was right after him that kind of started what we consider kind of the classical Egyptian like dynasty with the Ramses and, the great buildings and whatever. He was kind of a family friend. And once everybody died, he's like, we're burying everything. We're taking them out.
I say I was when some of the stuff I watched and some of the stuff I read, some of them believe that it was because of that monotheistic thing that the King Tut's dad kind of had accepted, and then the fact that he was overlooked to be the first pharaoh after he passed away right before King Tut, that he was the second choice, that there might have been some hard feelings about that, which caused him to be kind of like, oh hey, you know what I'm going to do? You're going to disappear.
Yeah,
from history.
And literally disappear. He wiped their faces off walls of Egypt and everything, and it wasn't until excavation of things that were destroyed that they found out that it wasn't just Amenhotep III and then the next pharaoh, who was Horemheb, who was the guy who destroyed everything. They thought that it was just one after the other. So
I mean, gotta think about that. That's like 3,200 years where you're just gone,
Yeah.
and then to be discovered again.
In a glorious way.
It just makes you
Yeah,
wonder
oh.
about what else we're missing. That you're like,
yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like I found kind of an archaeologist's guide to the pharaohs that tried to give like a timeline of the pharaohs, and there's so many question marks. There's so many pharaoh question mark all throughout history, and like even like all the way like recent, and I say recent as in like close to the
Cleopatra.
AD, yeah, kind of where it was still like we just didn't know what was going on. And it's not like they weren't, like they were creating art, they were doing statues. I mean, they were doing.
their engineering was way ahead of things that came centuries after.
Yeah, I mean, you think of the
Millennia
pyramids, even 1,000 years before King Tut. That is a modern, like, genius within itself of being able to build something that big, which was the biggest building ever created by humans until the Eiffel Tower, which is crazy. But I diverge.
It's all aliens.
It's aliens.
That's right.
The aliens did it.
Oh, I knew it was
The
going to go here.
aliens did it. Hey, listen. Where's the fun of talking about ancient Egypt without the aliens? One of us needs to like spike our hair up and go on the History Channel and explain how that's the case. And it's crazy, like because there's legitimate people that are like, hey, the statue of Akhenaten is off.
Yeah,
He must be an alien.
he had an elongated head and
He had an
everything.
elongated head. Definitely an alien.
Yep.
Definitely was not the inbreeding. That
Not
was
the inbreeding at all.
Over 1,000 years of inbreeding.
No. Hey, speaking of his father, do you know what he introduced in art that had never been seen before in the Middle East, at least? I don't know about India because they were
kind of doing some.
doing some things,
over there.
but public display of affection. Akhenaten was the first person to basically draw himself or have himself depicted having public display of affection with his wives, kissing, hugging, little pecks on the cheek and stuff.
Really?
Yep.
I wonder how that made the other wives feel.
Be like,
I want an obelisk.
yeah, exactly.
Give me one.
I want that temple. Can you put me on the temple?
Name a city after me, Akhenaten.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that was another thing that was like super taboo. That was probably one of the reasons that they were removed, was because it was so, not only was the religion different, but his style and probably what he taught King Tut, because we see King Tut and his wife in several depictions, that it was so taboo that it was almost offensive to the Egyptian people.
I had also read that there's some speculation that he like literally turned half the rule over to Nefertiti being the one that they talk about, but like he kind of turned things over to his wives, and that was kind of taboo too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what a rebel rouser.
I know.
That guy, he's just like, I'm going to throw this entire city, state, nation into just a flux.
And do you know what's even funnier is he was only there for 14 years. He only reigned for a very short time.
So you think about that, because he built a city.
Yeah, he built
There
an
was a
entire
city that was built in 14 years. Just built.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think about the expansion happening right here in our neck of the woods with people moving in. But I can't just imagine like just a sudden city. And we're talking like limestone temples. We're talking like just people that 14 years you build this entire city, and then I think it was only like 10 years after that. It was just it was just emptied.
Yep.
Wiped out.
Yeah,
And then built over.
and built right over, and with the same stones and stuff.
It's incredible.
So should we break into the conspiracy stuff?
I am always down for
Should we
conspiracy.
do the conspiracy stuff?
Jake, are you ready for conspiracy?
We're gonna do some conspiracy.
I do like a good conspiracy.
So, Akhenaten and monotheism. Was he influenced by outside influences?
Ooh. That's a good question. Because that was one of my rabbit holes that I went down in studying is the Exodus found in the Bible
Uh-huh.
could be tied around that time. And so was he influenced by possible Israelites that were in the area?
Sure.
As definitely a possibility.
Very well could be. Yeah, I know that like especially some Talmudic researchers really say that I think it was his great-great-grandfather was probably the Pharaoh of Joseph. Mm-hmm. And then around the time of the Exodus is kind of around that Akhenaten, Nefertiti, maybe a couple years later. Because, I mean, the common people, if you watch any show, the Pharaoh of Moses is always Ramses II.
Yeah.
But I don't think historically that really holds up.
No. It's just because he was a huge figure. And so to make Hollywood pleased, I think.
Do you guys know who actually did like the first theory of a connection between Judeo-Christianity and the Akhenaten?
No idea.
Do you know, Jake?
I don't.
He's a famous psychologist, the first.
Oh, we're talking Freud.
It was Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud wrote a whole book, and in his book he talks about that Moses was probably an Akhenaten priest. And that he took all and that he took a group of Canaanite slaves and fled and everything like that. I don't think there's any historical. I mean, Sigmund Freud was pretty he was pretty well known for just kind of pulling things out of his butt sometimes.
Yeah, Jake, you studied him in college.
Well,
enlighten us.
He did have that anal phase of psychosexual.
And this is where I step away. All young ears, cover them up.
Hey, keeping it PG. That's PG. You'll learn about it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
We're talking about a theory here.
We're also talking. It's the scientific word for the butt hole.
Sorry, Mom.
By the way, we are in our mom's basement. We didn't mention that.
We didn't mention that. Here we are, 3 grown adult men.
Married, kids, and we're in our mom's basement.
Just sitting down here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Where's my nuggies?
I need my orange juice.
Oh.
So how do we get back to King Tut off of that?
I don't know.
Solar worship.
Solar worship.
Solar worship.
What about solar worship, Jake?
I don't know. That's just where we were kind of going with how it became,
Well, it is kind of it is funny that here we've got the sun, which is kind of the ultimate power that we know. You know what I'm talking about? There's nothing more powerful than the sun, at least in our little neck of the woods. Obviously, theoretically speaking, there's probably some things more powerful, but it's a thing that has the biggest influence, and it always is. It's surprising to me that we don't have active sun worshipers now. You know what I'm talking about? And maybe we do, but it's one of those things you'd think that for as strong as some of the religious traditions were, ancient Egypt, Assyrian, that had a sun deity that was kind of the head deity. Because even I think Amun-Ra, which was the god that kind of was back and forth with the ancient Egypts during the time of this Akhenaten thing, he was a sun god.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have, trying to think of a couple other sun gods. Helios was a sun god, and from the Greek tradition. We have a lot of sun god, and it's funny that it's dissipated. We don't really have a lot. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm a little ignorant when it comes to Hinduism. Maybe there is some kind of...
there's thousands of gods there, so...
Yeah. But of the other major religions, there's just not a whole talk. There's not a lot of talk about sun worship anymore.
Do we count hippies? Do they
Do
worship
the hippies
sun?
worship?
Do we want to go down that
sun
path?
and everything it touches.
I thought they were more like Mother Earth.
Oh, Mother. Okay, gotcha.
Mother Earth.
That makes sense. So, back to King Tut, I guess, with the solar thing. It wasn't long that was established. Like we were saying earlier, Akhenaten reigned for about 14 years, but he didn't change the religion until about 6 years into his reign. And then when King Tut came around, it was pretty quick that he moved it back to Memphis and Thebes. And then he changed his name and everything like that.
Now, he was pretty young because he became pharaoh when he was 9 years old, right?
9 years old. Yep.
So do you think that he was influenced in those changes?
It kind of looks like from some of the stuff that it was what was it Vi,
Oh,
whatever.
Uh-huh.
That it looks like he was kind of the main, I don't know, mentor in trying to get that polytheistic view back in some of the original traditions.
Yeah, but I will say this. I read somewhere in I think it was in the Britannica. I think that's where.
Oh, Britannia.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's Britannia, not
Yeah.
Britannica, whatever.
Yeah. That the religion that of the worship Aten was not totally wiped out. It was accepted in the realm of the Egyptian religion that was before. So it wasn't like you were an outcast. They were accepted.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
Oh,
so
I
I
thought
thought
it
that
was
was very
like-
interesting. It wasn't until the Horemheb, who was two pharaohs after King Tut, that it was completely.
Well, and Horemheb is the one that was like the close family friend.
Yeah.
And I say that like obviously I'm making kind of a story out of things that I've read. He was the general of the army.
Yeah.
He was a personal scribe to Tutankhamun. There's some writing that says that he was pretty involved with Tutankhamun's decisions. Like he actually talks about calming down Tutankhamun when he had his rage fits. And so this guy, I mean, had to be a pretty serious member of at least the established family. And Horemheb just turned around literally 14 years. He went and immediately destroyed that I or A or that whatever the next pharaoh's is.
Yeah.
He went and just like pummeled the tomb or something, like broke it with his fists. Some crazy story. And then just said, this family that I was involved with, this guy just doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Not even going to talk about him. And it seemed like, I know this sounds funny, it seems like he was raging so hard he never had time to have a family, this Horemheb. He was just so mad that he's like, I'm not going to have any wives, I'm not going to have any children.
That's true.
I'm just going to destroy this, and then I'm this other guy I'm going to kind of promote. And that's where Ramses comes from.
Yeah. Ramses was a general alongside Horemheb, probably throughout this entire reign of King Tut, Akhenaten, everything like that. So it's kind of funny because Horemheb was fighting the Hittites at the time of King Tut's death.
Oh, really?
Yep, he was over in the Syria, Jordan area fighting the Hittites, and so he wasn't even there. He was actually named the successor of King Tut. But because he wasn't present, they rushed and made I the pharaoh. And he was pharaoh only for a few years, and Horemheb had to come back. And by the time he got back, several month journey through the desert and whatnot, he couldn't become pharaoh. But King I was pretty old, and so
wasn't he like? What was it? Was it Nefertiti's dad?
Yeah, it's suspected that he was probably Nefertiti's dad.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Then again, as Jake said before, everybody was just so terribly, terribly inbred.
I'm my own grandpa.
It's so true. They say his family tree is more like a bush. That when he introduced, hey, my mother and my sister are in the room together, and there's only one girl standing there.
Well, I think there was someone that had said that his Tutankhamun's wife was, probably his half sister, and maybe even his sister, depending on who his mother was.
Yeah.
But the fact that his father had technically probably married her,
The sister,
so not only is she his wife, but she's also his stepmother.
Oh my gosh.
What a
Family dinners must be really interesting.
seriously, them and their bread.
Eat your wild ibis, son, father, husband. Or I'm sending you to your room.
Stepmother.
Seriously. Well, and didn't Tutankhamun died when he was 18, right?
Yep.
But he had 2 kids.
He did.
But they both died in childbirth, I
Yeah.
think is what it was.
Yeah, Jake and I were talking on the way over here of they were buried, so they died probably pretty early on because King Tut was married at the time of his becoming pharaoh. So he was 9 years old when he got married. And then,
I have a 9-year-old at home.
isn't that gross?
Oh.
But she was probably a little bit older. So she was the cougar in this
I
instant.
see.
Maybe like 11 is what they were
Whoa.
thinking.
Whoa.
11, 12.
Robbing the cradle.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do they do? Like, for their honeymoon, they played with toys?
Little choo-choo train. Oh, wait, that was around the little red wagon they pulled up to the pyramid.
Like Lincoln Log Pyramid?
They just go out and kick someone.
Run away. Yeah, but she was probably only 14, so probably 2 years, and he was 11 or 12 because he had to go through puberty.
Does it ever say what happened to her?
Yes, so after King Tut died, she wrote a letter to the Hittite king saying, hey, I want to marry you.
Really?
Yeah. And it never got there. The Hittite king thought she was joking. And so he, for a little while, a few weeks, he was like, oh, she's joking. But she wrote another letter, and he was like, oh my gosh, she's serious. And so he did send his son to marry her, but Hornheb supposedly killed the son on the way to Egypt.
Oh, really?
Yep. And so it could have been, instead of Ramses and his dynasty, the 19th dynasty, it could have been Hittite-ruled dynasty after Tutankhamun. But there's nothing after that. We don't know what happened to her. There's a possibility that I married her, and he was in his 60s.
Oh, I thought you were saying you married her.
I might.
I was like, no, I don't think your wife is an ancient Egyptian.
No. But the pharaoh probably married her, and he was probably 50 years her senior.
Well, I would assume that Egypt kind of worked the same way like that medieval Europe did, and they kind of would send their daughters off to marry different kingdoms and everything around. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me, but those Hittites just causing all sorts of anguish and pain.
Seriously.
Darn them.
Oh, my goodness.
So should we break down into how this was all discovered? Because I think this is a pretty crazy story.
The Howard Carter?
Howard Carter. Have you read up on this guy?
I haven't. I don't
He
like.
is just the meanest,
That's
most just grumpy guy out there.
Who set up camp where he was looking and looked around it for years.
Years.
like. Yeah.
So he obviously wasn't the one that was funding it. It was funded by some English royalty that ended up getting the Pharaoh's curse. We'll talk about that here in a second.
Ooh, Pharaoh's curse.
But Carter, like he caused all sorts of problems. There was a time when there was a bunch of tourists that came down that were looking through the what do they call it? The Valley of Kings.
Oh yeah, where the tombs located.
Yeah, where all the tombs are located, and like he just kind of like yelled at them. And then they were gonna like raise up arms against like him and a couple people, and he was like, "Oh no, I'll kill you." And so they just left. And like it caused like a huge political problem because like the tourists, I think they were Danish or something like that. And so like there was all sorts of just issues. This guy was just a loose cannon.
He built his house just outside the Valley of the Kings.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And it's still there, supposedly, I guess.
Never had children.
Never had children.
Never had.
They called him a loner. He didn't like company.
Well, I guess if you want someone digging in the sand for their entire life, that's the person you probably want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's kind of a Harold Carter. I think the thing that I was talking about, if anybody wants to look it up, is called the Saqqara affair. It was him and the Egyptians against someone else. And what was funny is I think that England got after him because they said, well, you should have sided with the other people because, the Egyptians, they're not like us. So, and he didn't. So maybe it was kind of an act of bravery. I don't know, but he was just a mean old cuss.
It's funny, as I'm just reading here. After all this was done, he made a living by painting and selling watercolors to tourists.
Oh my gosh, he's Bob Ross.
Oh my gosh, he's
the early 20th century version of Bob Ross. Just a happy little pyramid.
Happy little pyramid.
You son of a tourist. Yeah, but Howard Carter almost did not discover.
Yeah, it
King
was kind
Tut's
of
good.
it was kind of like an accident, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was an accident. They found rubble of the a tomb next to King Tut's. The workers' camp was built on top of the entrance of King Tut.
Really?
And so they went in to kind of dig through there to see if they could find anything important. And they dug too deep, as my favorite author, J.R.R. Tolkien, would say. And they discovered the entrance to the tomb.
Really?
Yeah. So it was kind of just a happenstance. He was looking for it. He knew of King Tut by that point.
Yeah, because they had found the city beforehand.
Yeah. Yep.
And so they had figured out that at least Akhenaten was real, but like Tutankhamun was still unknown completely.
Yeah. He was a mystery.
A mystery.
But then he found the unsealed door.
And
That's
he's like,
caused
I'm going to be
everything.
rich.
Yep. And he wasn't.
Unleash a curse
Yeah.
on everyone.
There is the curse on the door.
There is. Yeah, that's what they say. Like the curse of the door is the big thing. And I know the guy who funded everything, I think his name was, I'm going to look it up because I'm going to.
Looks like it's Lord Carnarvon or something like that.
Yeah, and he's the dude that like straight up died like a year after it was discovered, right?
Yeah.
Contracted blood poisoning.
And do you know what it was from? He was shaving his face.
Really?
He was shaving his face, cut his face, and that's where they think,
See, this is why I don't shave often.
oh, see, I have
I'm gonna
to
tell
shave.
I'm gonna tell my wife this. Honey, I'm not the reason I don't shave is I'm worried about the mummy's curse.
I need to tell my employer
It probably
about this.
made its way over here by now. It's been almost 100 years, or it has been 100 years now.
Yeah,
Have you guys
yeah.
ever actually seen a mummy?
Yes, I have.
The movie?
Brendan Fraser.
You know, that third one was not good.
Yeah, but the first one was
First
epic.
one was
It is
fantastic.
one of my favorite movies of all time.
Second one, the Pygmies gave me nightmares.
Oh yeah?
No, do you know what gives me nightmares in that movie is when the scarabs, or is that what they're called?
Oh,
the
yeah,
beetles
where they
that
go in
climb
the
in the
skin.
skin? Oh. That
I
get-
agree. You know who gives me nightmares?
what?
Brendan Fraser.
Hey,
Actually, no, I love him. I love Brendan Fraser. Brendan, if you ever hear this, I love you, Brendan.
we're very
Fraser.
proud of. I haven't watched it yet, but The Whale.
The Whale, yeah.
He got a Oscar for something like that.
We are so up to date with our. I think that was like 2 years ago.
Seriously.
He's coming out in a new movie with oh shoot, I forgot their names. Anyway, there's a movie where he's gonna be coming out and he's like a corrupt cop criminal guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know shoot. I really am thinking I'm at a loss for names. Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Look it up.
Well,
bug me.
hey,
I'll
it's a
bring in-
Brendan Fraser Renaissance.
Well, I will say this: one of my other favorite films of his,
Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes,
The
back in
Looney
action.
Tunes back in action.
I still have it.
That is an underrated movie.
Yeah, for everyone who, so Jake and I shared a room a lot of the times when we were growing up, and we had a little television, a box television, and that's what we used to watch to put ourselves to sleep. Oh, I just squeaked. That was embarrassing.
Josh went back to that
I was
day
gonna
and age
say.
right then and there.
It was like a time machine right there.
Wow.
Was that the only one you guys watched?
No.
There was another one too, right?
Shanghai
Shanghai
Nights.
Nights and Shrek 2.
How old were you, Josh?
Oh, let's see.
You would have been about 5 or 6.
So,
And here we are watching Shanghai Nights. Yeah.
Jackie Chan. Shout out to Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
The credit song for Shrek 2 gave me nightmares.
The credit song for
Yeah.
Shrek 2.
It's I Need a Hero, but it's that weird.
Oh, the fairy lady.
It's not the fairy lady. They had a credit song with a group. I mean, listen to it now. It's like, oh, it's fine, but it was just eerie to me as a 10-year-old because I would listen to it as I'm going to bed, and then my nightmares would just be filled with these people singing this really weird song about being a hero.
Gingy's like, I'm gonna be a hero. Oh, not my buttons. I'm just gonna move on.
Shrek 2.
Oh my gosh.
So how do we connect Shrek 2 back with the Mummy?
Oh, the movie's called Brothers.
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 Speaking of brothers, what about them pharaohs that were all brothers and sisters? How about that?
Hey, well done.
That is the greatest segue I've
That
ever
was a
had.
great segue. Excellently
How
done.
would it be to have children who are your nieces and nephews?
Ugh.
Please don't.
That's just icky.
Going back to the tomb, do you know what was kind of interesting in the documentary I watched? A lot of the time you have these tombs that they spend years and years and years painting and going through. They project that the paintings in King Tut's tomb were done probably in a week or two.
Yeah.
And
Really?
that when they closed off the tomb, it was still drying, which is why it has kind of the appearance it has today.
Yeah, I read that too, that there was signs of mold, which means that there was moisture still on the walls, and that the mold produced because, of course, the tomb would heat up because it's in the desert, and that produced mold not only on the walls but in his sarcophagus and other places.
So that would mean that more than likely, and I know there's a lot of theories about how King Tut died, but it would have been quick.
Yeah.
It was quick. Well, they think the tomb was actually made for a female royalty because of how it's set up. Because the tomb goes to the right instead of the left, and the male royalties always would go to the left, where the females would go right. And the headdress that they have on King Tut's tomb, the face looks like it was actually put on the headdress after the fact, because the headdress looks like it's more for a female.
Really?
So
And the goatee was added later. It's a whole different piece where a lot of the other is one piece.
So I'm thinking it was one of those. I like kind of reading through it, and it does seem like I can imagine broken leg, malaria, gone like that.
Yeah.
Was it malaria?
Yeah,
Yes,
they
it
did
was
say it was malaria. Yeah. Yeah, there's a really interesting book that I just got done reading, speaking of that, about mosquitoes and how they affect
Hey, why, Danny?
history.
Why are you
That's-
reading
that's a
about
really good
mosquitoes?
question. But that's one of the ones that they actually bring about, is that, like, it's funny, malaria at the time was probably only affecting humans for a couple hundred years. It was a relatively actually like newer disease. It was kind of the COVID of its time. And so they didn't have the natural, your body, it's not really antibodies because it's a parasite. That malaria is a parasite. But you can actually season your body so that you kind of can live with malaria for a long time. Like a lot of famous people had malaria. But when they tested King Tut's DNA, like he had like 5 or 6 different strains of malaria.
Well, and they think he potentially had some type of autoimmune disorder as well.
Yeah,
to go
yeah.
along with that.
I have a list of physical limitations that they discovered. Malaria, which causes seizures, brain damage, trouble breathing, and organ failure. A clubfoot, which would limit his movement, and he would have a shorter leg because of it. A curved spine, so he had scoliosis. A severe overbite, so he couldn't. He had severe jaw pain and tooth erosion. Elongated head, which was genetic.
Alien.
Bone necrosis, so his bones were being just withering in his foot.
Oh my gosh.
Large hips and large breasts, so he probably looked feminine, super feminine, which we could see in artwork at that time. And then he also had a cleft palate. And
really?
so he
like a
had,
full cleft palate?
they said a partial cleft palate.
Oh my gosh.
So he was a mess.
Well, it's a miracle he lived for as long as he did.
18 years.
Yeah.
Why do you think they didn't figure it out? Why weren't they like, hey, this inbreeding is causing this?
They were probably thinking those limitations were gifts
Oh,
from the gods.
that's interesting.
Your foot is to the left
say-
and curved.
It's a sign that ISIS loves you or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
As I look at it, and it's just crazy that for them it was like, but we have to stay pure. We have to keep our bloodline pure. You can't let that go.
Well, what's crazy is that, like, and it's not just the Egyptians. I mean, it's literally royalty through the ages. I mean,
Yeah, up to the Habsburgs, which was only a few hundred years
it's just
ago.
not that long ago. I mean, you look at like the Louis the what is it, the 15th, who was
something like that.
Like he was literally incapable of like living by himself. I mean, it was just
So, some of the Renaissance paintings and beyond that you see of some of the royalty, you're like, oh, please tell me that was hopefully a caricature, not actually how they looked.
That chin, though, man.
oh that
Habsburg
the
chin.
Habsburg chin.
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, boys, we've reached the end.
We
So,
told you we
what
had
were we talking
ADHD.
about again?
Yeah,
Who are we?
exactly.
What are we?
What are we doing?
I like crepes.
Someone forgot to plug in their device.
I'm sorry. You guys are going to definitely hear some kind of break because the battery ran out.
First go.
Hey,
It's
listen.
okay.
This is a
It's like a pilot video
exactly.
episode.
Exactly. I don't
Mayday!
have-
Mayday! Crashing!
We're going down.
We don't have anybody who's sponsoring us right now, so we can do whatever we want.
Sponsored by Honeybee Beauty Salon.
Oh, Honeybee Beauty Salon.
Yep.
There you go.
Ooh, located where?
124th and 13th West, something like that.
I heard they give amazing haircuts.
They do give amazing haircuts and nails. I have had my nails done.
Have you?
Yeah.
Do you clear coat?
No,
Oh, I want to.
You don't want to see the pictures.
it's very bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's
No,
pictures.
the thing about it is it looks amazing, but the fact that it's Josh that has them.
It was my foot. I got a pedicure by Honeybee Beauty, and my hairy hobbit foot did not look good with the type of poop green that I put on my toes.
Oh, I was hoping it was going to be like French tip, like
No.
real nice looking.
Honeybee the stylist at Honeybee Beauty Salon was still in school,
I see.
and so
So go to Honeybee Beauty Salon on 126th or 123rd. I can't remember which road.
Whatever.
Does Honeybee have a website yet?
Riverton,
no,
Utah.
you can look her up on look them up on Instagram and Facebook.
I think you can say her.
Her, it is a her.
I mean, we're politically correct, but it is a her. She
Yes.
actually identifies as a her. We're
Yeah.
all right.
But yeah, she look her up on Instagram or Facebook, and she can get you in.
Okay, Jake, what's the segue to come off of this back to King Tut?
King Tut. Do you know? I think King Tut was bald, so he probably wouldn't have been able to appreciate as
Right.
much as we have.
It's true.
Though ancient Egyptians did wear wigs.
They did.
And I bet Honeybee, she could style a wig.
She really could.
My question is, what were the wigs made out of?
I think they were made out of camel and horsehair.
Really?
Yeah.
I know that they used to literally light a candle on top or put some kind of wax.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like beeswax on top to keep them cool.
But my question is, if it was that type of hair, wouldn't have that still attracted lice and fleas? Wasn't that the whole purpose of shaving?
Oh, that's a really good point.
Oh dang!
I thought that was the reason they did it, is just because there was so much. I could be wrong. I could be way off. They could have just been like, no, that was our style.
They just want to be hairless.
Stop, you stupid hairy man.
Well, I know that at least when it comes to that was one of their big things about the Canaanites. The reason
They have
that
beards.
yeah, they literally called them the hairy beasts.
Oh, we would have fit in perfectly.
Oh,
Oh,
Canaanites!
yay!
All right, see, that was a good segue.
That was.
That was a great segue.
Hey, I am here sometimes.
All right, final words on King Tut, Josh.
King Tut, great pharaoh. Bad physical. I didn't want to ever see him. I'd love to see his mummy, and I would love to go see his tomb. Our dad has been in the tomb,
Yes,
and he said it's pretty epic.
So what you're saying is the curse could be here because of him.
see.
Oh my gosh!
We weren't born yet when we went and saw it.
No,
Because it was only 50 years after. It could have been lingering.
that's right.
We're cursed.
He was about the age of what King Tut was. Do you
That
realize
explains my weight.
that? Well, it explains all of our weight if you're pointing that out. Good thing this isn't a
explains my
videoed podcast.
Seriously. Hey, soon enough, probably. All right, Jake, final words from you on King Tut.
All right, Danny,
I
that was
I thought that was my last words. If you're cursed, please visit. Just kidding.
Final words. If you haven't listened to Steve Martin's King Tut, do it. See?
If you haven't seen Adams West's Batman,
Do it.
King Tut,
If you haven't watched Brendan Fraser's Mummy, do it.
it.
If you have watched Tom Cruise's Mummy, we're sorry.
Watch the other one,
The other one's
Yeah.
way better.
Yeah.
but focus on the Egyptian ones.
Sorry, Tom. You do a lot of really good work. That wasn't one of them.
We're offending like so many people.
I know. We're so screwed.
We're never gonna have any collaborations with celebrities after this.
But Brendan Fraser, we love you.
Hey, come and join us,
Come
Brendan.
and join us.
In our mom's basement.
It is comfortable.
It is.
He would come in here, sit down, and go, Why?
Why am I
So
here?
what am I doing here?
So in an episode,
We
of
just
King
need you to
Tut-
talk about something, and you just keep going.
Brendan, where were you all those years? That's what I want.
How did you get so?
Mummy's Curse.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh! Did he turn into a
I
mummy?
just want to know how you got so fit for George of the Jungle.
I want to know that too.
That's another good
Because
one.
that guy was ripped. Like, I am as heterosexual as they come, but my goodness. Yeah, you're that quiet.
Drop the mic.
We love you, Brendan.
He was all our '90s crush, even though I was very tail end of the '90s. Let's say he was.
Josh is like 5 years old.
And on that note, thank you for joining us for the Twaddling Along podcast. We hope to get you back next week. Next week will be paranormal. And one of us will get to pick that one. So join us. It's spooky season. Halloween is coming upon us. We're excited to be there. Thank you so much. Have a good one.